Bringing in my sellout crowd cohort, Jenni Carlson, in to talk about this now. So, Jenni, obviously, you and I at the start of the season, we wrote a thing about how do you actually watch the Thunder. We knew this was a situation that was going to be fluid and in flux throughout the season. And a change that I have been anticipating finally announced today. The Thunder games, at least on Fridays, for the rest of the season, are going to be available over the air in select markets. We'll get more into that, but that is the starting point for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and this was a change that was enabled by the fact that the NBA and Diamond Sports Media struck a deal as Diamond goes through bankruptcy that teams that they are contracted with could broadcast as many as 10 games this season over the air. And so the Thunder looked into the possibility. Friday night, they had 8 games, so they decided to capitalize on those Friday night games, put them on local TV, partnering largely with Griffin Media, which means Channel 9 in Oklahoma City, Channel 6 in Tulsa. We'll get a vast majority of the state covered. They've also done deals with some other providers in sort of outlying areas surrounding states that they can bring in and show the Thunder games to those markets as well. So about 2 million homes is what the Thunder predicts that this broadcast will reach. And, obviously, you don't have any idea of what this could portend for the future because of the Diamond ongoing bankruptcy situation. But this may be something that, we could see more of in the future. Thunder wants to give it a run, obviously, get the games into more homes, but also maybe test some things out for, potential options in the future.
And you talked about it. I mean, this is a result of the bankruptcy proceedings, and
Yeah.
that's got some layers there. One, as you mentioned, each team was able to go and sell up to 10 games to a local TV provider, and that was to lay the ground, I think, for every team to go ahead and kind of get some groundwork going. We'll see where this goes in the future. I agree with you. This may not be the end of local broadcasts, but I think there's still a lot more to figure out in the future. And then also, just to re-emphasize here, the Thunder did not unilaterally decide we're going to pull games off of Bally Sports and put them over the air. This was a result of the bankruptcy proceedings, the NBA taking a reduced fee in order to end all of those contracts at the end of this season. Therefore, Bally Sports and the parent company is paying less for these rights, which means teams are going out and recouping that elsewhere. So just to reemphasize, the Thunder did not decide to do this on a whim. This
Yeah.
was driven by proceedings in the court, essentially.
Yeah, and let's remember too that all the other games, the non-Friday games that remain in the regular season, with the exception of the ones that are TNT exclusives, I think there's maybe 1 or 2 of those left. There'll be some NBA TV games, but those are still Bally Sports for the local audience. The remainder of those games will still be on Bally Sports this year. So if you don't have Bally Sports access right now, this doesn't miraculously open a door for you. It gives you additional games you can see without a Bally Sports point of entry, whether that's through satellite provider or cable or the streaming service that Bally's has started. So it's just an extra option for people that don't have Bally's. But if you do have Bally's, something that's worth remembering is that these 8 games that are going to be broadcast locally on over air TV will not be on Bally Sports. They will not be, even the streaming service, Bally Sports Plus will not have these Friday night games. So an antenna, if you don't have an option for one of those local, or you're not a cable subscriber. If you're a cable subscriber, you're probably not going to have to worry either way. Those options exist. But I know that I've got an antenna, and it will be coming into use probably for these games as they're on over air TV locally. So I think that's just the Thunder set up a website. And the 2 Griffin stations have also put pages on their website to help people navigate and make sure that they can see those Friday night games. And with few exceptions, if you can see the Thunder now, you're going to be able to see them on these Friday night games. It just might take a little bit of work. You might not be able to sit down at your TV, flip it on Friday night, and automatically find the Thunder. If you don't have an antenna right now, that might be an Amazon purchase. I think there may be 10 or 12 bucks to make here in the next few days, and make sure you can see those games on Friday night.
And, just on a side note, I highly recommend, even if you are a cable cutter, even if you rely on a streaming service like YouTube TV or Hulu Live TV that maybe does not have KSBI as part of the package, or the 6.3 channel in Tulsa, one of these others, I highly recommend having an antenna regardless. And for years, I just used a paper clip. I just unfurl a paper clip, put it into the antenna jack. You can pick up a lot of stuff. I can't guarantee you're going to get these particular channels, but there could be some very MacGyver-like low-cost solutions to this. But also, just like living in Oklahoma, having a TV with an antenna is a good idea, just
Yeah.
because things go out at inopportune times. So, not a bad solution to have, regardless.
Yeah, I think there are definitely ways that people can see these games. Like I said, there's a few exceptions. I know we're going to get to that in a second, but for the most part, if you live in the state of Oklahoma, there's a great chance that you're going to get to see these games on Friday night. And there's some good games that are being played on Friday night. So I think it's going to be a nice chance for people to see games that maybe if they don't have Bally's, or they've cut a cord and it just hasn't. Bally's is the providers that Bally's has just been reduced and reduced and reduced. And these were Fox Sports regional networks before. So, if you loved Fox Sports before, even if Fox Sports was still around, this would be the situation, because their parent company moved them off all of these options that existed for, providers out there, whether it was streaming or satellite. Those numbers just got cut back and cut back and cut back. And so that, I know there's been a lot of frustrations for a lot of reasons with the regional sports networks, whether they were Fox before or now Bally's. But this is a situation where maybe you get a little bit of feel good if you haven't had a chance to really watch this team. And now's a great time to catch them and see what they're up to, because I think, John, in future years, I think we're going to see a lot more Thunder on national television, accessible not only to more people in Oklahoma, not more people regionally, but more people nationally. But really, people didn't expect the Thunder to make the kind of jump they're making this year. So still so many local games that Bally's is taking care of. Now this gives a chance, at least more broadly around the region, that more people may have a chance without having Bally's to see this team play this year.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously it could broaden the audience as they get the word out and people are aware, like, oh, I can watch the Thunder on these Friday nights, and I have an antenna, or I am subscribed to a cable provider that carries that channel, that maybe they wouldn't have checked it out otherwise. It could broaden the audience, but there are going to be some unfortunate pockets, I think, that are going to, I think the NBA could not rescue every last viewer as part of this. And so there are going to be some people sort of left out in some regions. What do you know about that? About just people that, here and there, they could be in neighboring states where they're unfortunately subject to blackouts. Maybe they don't have league pass. It sounds like some people may be left out as part of this, even if they're going to grow potentially some of the local audience.
Yeah, I agree with that, John. There are some pockets. I think they're pretty small, but if it's your pocket, it doesn't feel small. If you've bought Bally's and all of a sudden you can't get the game on Bally's, and you aren't in an area where the Thunder is going to be broadcast locally, unfortunately, I don't think there's a good answer right now. I'm sure there's some back ways in and around the internet you might find, and maybe Mr. Paperclip I'm talking to here, maybe he's got some options. I don't know. DM on Twitter at John Hamm. No, so I mean, yes. In talking to the Thunder about this, one of those areas that unfortunately is going to be a left out pocket in all this is the Ada, Sherman, Texas TV market, because that's an area that is a Mavericks area, but because of the technology that Bally's has, they can actually give people in that market in Ada Thunder games. But because of the Mavericks blackout situation, these locally broadcast Thunder games will not be available to people in the Ada area. So I do think that it's worth checking out if you're in an area. If you, like John said, KSBI, the one in Tulsa is what, 6.2 or 6.3?
6.3. The
6.3.
subchannel 6.3. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you check this out before we get to that first Friday night game, which January 26th is the first Friday that will be on local over air TV, just check out, make sure you've got it. Maybe call if you have a question, call your local, cable provider or whatever the situation is, and see what exists, and make sure you've got it if you're at all questioning. But again, this is going to be large coverage area in Oklahoma, but it does sound like, especially if you're maybe in the South and the Mavs are a team that you sometimes see pop onto your TV, that might be a sign that, hey, I'm in one of those pockets where this is not going to work for me on those Friday night games.
Yeah, and I mean, I do feel for people, and I've heard from fans in Arkansas and in Nebraska and in Kansas that subscribe to Bally Sports Plus before the season. And again, it's unfortunate because the terms changed on those folks. And again, it wasn't the Thunder that did this; it's the ongoing bankruptcy proceeding and what the NBA agreed to. And so, unfortunately, and again, this is for the rest of this season. There's going to be 8 games that for some of these folks, they may be left to other devices, let's say, to go try and find these games. But again, this is for the rest of the season. Jenni, I know we don't have a crystal ball here, and we touched upon it a little bit, but, looking into the future, it's clear that, things are changing not only locally, but across the NBA, across all of sports when it comes to regional rights. The Phoenix Suns, the Utah Jazz, both went to local over-the-air channels. They added a subscription package as part of that. I would suspect this is going to be kind of a pattern that we see for a lot of these teams that have been tethered to Fox Sports and Bally Sports over the years.
Yeah, I totally agree, John. And again, I do, this is just me suspecting that the Thunder's looking at this as a test drive for what it could look like for them. Now, the Thunder is an interesting test case in and of itself, because the Thunder, unlike a lot of NBA teams, I don't know other situations as far as Major League Baseball or NHL as they do local and regional broadcasts. But for the Thunder, they are the on-air talent. They're behind the camera producers and all of that. Those folks, those are Thunder employees. In a lot of cases, that's not how this works. A lot of teams, it's a contract situation, and you're contracting via your regional sports network. So the Bally Sports people are, they would be contracted that way to then work the team games. It's not that way for Oklahoma City. They control that talent, the people that are working behind the scenes to make the broadcast go. So they have a lot at their fingertips that some of these teams do not have. So that's a great benefit to the Thunder. They don't have to try to reinvent something. They're already doing it. They just basically, I assume there's a switch that has to be flipped to put it, on local TV as opposed to Bally's. So it's not going to be a huge headache, but this gives them a chance to see, what does it look like? What are the numbers that they're seeing? Because I'm assuming, John, I haven't read or seen anything about this, but for those markets that did decide to go 100% over the air this year, I assume the Thunder and other teams like them are going to be in close contact with the Jazz, with the Suns. How did it go? What worked? What didn't? What could this look like? How could it translate in Oklahoma City? I think obviously that Salt Lake market is a lot like the Thunder market. Their team's not as good right now, so I'm guessing that maybe the passion isn't quite as high to flip on 82 games and watch that team. But I do think that's an interesting, test case for Oklahoma City to look at as it considers what comes next, because pretty clearly, John, what comes next is not another, 5-year deal or whatever the situation is with Bally's. I just don't see any way that that's what happens. So what is next? What does that look like? Who might be involved? Because as far as regional sports networks go, there's not that Fox Sports regional look like there was the last time the Thunder was looking for, that regional broadcaster. So I think local and over air is probably what most teams are going to be looking to do. And frankly, I think there's a lot of fans that are going to be excited about that. It doesn't, like we were talking before, it doesn't fit not everyone gets, the best out of that situation. But I think as far as getting the content out there, people not having the complaints, and rightfully so, about some of the production, some of the availability. I mean, it's been really hard to be a team of a fan of a team in a lot of markets when you can't see your team play, or you really have to struggle to make it happen, or have to pay a bunch of money to make it happen. So I think we could really see an about face with what some of these teams are able to do. To be determined with the Thunder, but I definitely think this is one of those things that they're looking ahead, what this could look like in the future.
And there's even the possibility that league-wide, because all of these rights across the NBA are ending after the season, the NBA is in the process of renegotiating its national TV rights. They could roll in these local rights. There have been rumors, and again, they're just rumors, of Amazon wanting to get involved. Now, if they come in and now they're throwing their backing behind Bally Sports, maybe that changes things. But it does sort of seem like what's old is new again, and that is not only in over-the-air television, but that is Thunder on KSBI. Thunder TV, which is where the team originated way
Yes.
back when in 2008, Jenny. What year is it? It's
Yeah, and I've already seen the clip of the intro from that first year rolled out on social media. It's
Yeah.
grainy, it's a little bit goofy, but I think in some form or fashion, doesn't that have to be used in the local on-air broadcast this year? I mean,
Yes.
even if just to remind us, of the good old days, I think it would be great. So yeah, but John, I think you're right. And the thing for people to remember, I know this has caused a lot of frustration among Thunder fans, but it's not just Thunder. You're talking about some of the most, long-standing, powerful brands in all of sports that have dealt with these issues. I mean, the Yankees with the Yes Network, they were sort of rolled into all this. And, you think about Yankees fans and, how passionate they are, how long-standing. I mean, the Thunder, not even in existence for 2 decades at this point. Obviously, fans are passionate, but you've got fan bases that have been following teams for literally century plus, and they struggle to see games now. So this is an issue that has really spanned the gamut of pro sports. There's so many franchises and so many fans that are dealing with this. I know it's frustrating, but maybe this is starting to be a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, I think it is. The regional net broadcasting, that bubble is basically burst at this point. And so, everything is changing, and this is getting caught up in that as well. And ultimately, I think it could turn out to be a benefit, to fans that just want to be able to turn on the TV and easily find the game. Hopefully this is, a step in that direction. And, it's exciting stuff for fans around here to get a little bit of clarity, at least for the rest of the season, on what games are going to be on broadcast on what networks. So, Jenny, thanks for coming on and talking to me about this. And you and I have sort of become the broadcast insiders for Sellout Crowd. And so as news breaks, you and I will be back here to talk about it some more.